Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Big Poppy back again, unsecured from the skiff. And today we're going to talk about a little bit about Ukraine and Russia and this to be or not to be. And I got to tell you, I watched the video of Vladimir Putin before the first missile was shot off into Ukraine. And I was a little perplexed that a special military operation would have such a threat at the end of the message that was something in this nature. It was, I hope I have made myself clear. And he was talking about Western intervention or Western allies intervening for any reason at all as it relates to this specific special military mission. Now, just a couple of things to know. Back in September of 2021, 54% of Americans supported sending troops to Ukraine. This was built on all the intelligence and all the things that were coming through where we kind of knew what was going to happen. We had heard false flag reports. We had heard all sorts of stuff going on. And we knew it was going to happen. In early March of 22, that number had slipped to 39% supporting using troops and 40% supported using airstrikes. Now, as you know, there's a no-fly zone, or there is not a no-fly zone, and we haven't really sent any planes, at least that we are going to fly or we are going to use as a deterrent to what's happening in Ukraine. Late March of this year, around the 24th of March, 74% support admitting Ukraine civilians who were fleeing the war into the U.S. So that's a pretty interesting number, and I kind of look at it with cartels who run and support business and paying off and bribes to politicians and all this other stuff. As a nation, you constantly hear every day that we have an immigration problem, and one day we'll talk about that, whether it's true or not, or if it is true, why it is, et cetera, et cetera. But the last statement that Putin made really said a lot. This isn't a special military operation. It's a takeover. Personally, I believe war crimes have been committed. Personally, I believe crimes against humanity could be thrown on the table. I really don't believe, as we sit today, that genocide has occurred, and each one of those have a certain threshold or a ceiling with which you have to meet in order to prove those by the international criminal, the ICC criminal court. So, but Madeleine Albright once stated, "The only victor that will prevail in this endeavor, will be truth." And at some point in time, the truth is going to come out about the who, what, the when, where's, and whys. Ukraine is a huge exporter of goods, fertile land, cereals. They do non-military space and parts, fuel and oil, finished iron and steel parts, just tons of stuff from a nation that has become well known in the last few months. And my issue with the whole thing is this: based on what Putin completed his televised address said, is at what point do we as people, not necessarily Americans, but we as people, at what point do we get to determine when we're going to be righteous and when we're not? To me, as a man, if I'm the president of the United States and I'm sitting in the office looking out the window, I really want to know what all my venues are, my avenues of approach, the A, B, C, D, and what the second, third order effects are to those decisions. Putin has already proven his military is lackluster. They haven't performed up to task. They're being beaten by civilians who have been armed in order to protect themselves. But even beyond that, if we're going to be leaders of the free world, if we're going to say we have the greatest democracy, nobody on this planet is going to do anything unless we do it. So what should we do? What should we not do? Will sanctions be enough in crippling Russia and their ability to produce um, a myriad of things, whether it's these supersonic missiles or nuclear powered arsenal or whatever the case may be? But as a man, there comes a point in time when we have to stand up and be righteous, and we have to do what's right. Not because it's comfortable, not because it's convenient, but because it is the right thing to do. And I'm curious to the listeners out there and people who will actually follow this and jump on. How do you feel about it? Do you think we've done everything right? Is seizing money and yachts and ships and things of that nature, is it going to be enough? And do we need our military to step up and intervene? And then, oh, by the way, what does China think about all this? I think all of those are very poignant points. I think they need to be conversed upon. I think they need to be discussed. And I think we need to be better as a people. It's hard watching women and children die. It's traumatic. It ties into a lot of other things that you guys have heard me talk about, whether it's disability, the VA, because very few are the ones who are going to have to fight these wars. And I know we just got out of a war. I mean, I was in the military for 28 years, and the entirety of that time, from Desert Storm all the way through, we were at conflict of some sort. So truth will be told, but truth will also be told about us and how we as leaders of this free world responded or didn't respond. And I think that is something that we have to always be wary of. Is we want to be the best in the world, we want to say we're the best in the world, but yet we don't get the opportunity to decide when we're going to do that all the time based on world events. So anxious to hear what you guys have to say, to be or not to be. And I really enjoy this platform, and I'm hoping that you guys will share it and like it, and let's start having some conversation, some real conversation about what's happening in the world. All right, Unsecure from the Skiff, it's your man Big Papi, and let's get it going.